Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to National Flooring Equipment's demonstrations today, and our topic is large spaces. So what we're going to do today is talk about industrial and manufacturing large footprint jobs, and we're going to talk about some of the equipment that you can pair to get high production, high volume, so you can get on the job and get off of a large job quickly, efficiently, and hopefully make a bunch of money on the way. We've got Matt Segura, our VIP speaker today. Matt's an industry expert that's worked with National for a long, how many years, Matt, have you been here? 7 years. So if you guys have questions today, you have the ability to live chat in, and they will tell us the questions, we'll repeat them and hopefully give you an answer. So don't be afraid to chat in your questions this morning. And thanks for everybody that's joined us.
You know, yesterday with the questions, if someone stumped Dave or myself, we were giving away Dave's Corvette. Nobody did it yesterday. Today it's a 76 Pinto. So get us our questions, try to stump us. It's all, we'll do best we can.
I was giving away one or both of my children because they're very expensive, but didn't have any takers on that. All seriousness, we try to be serious, but listen, you guys, we're here to have fun. Large spaces means big riders, big grinders, big shop blasters. They're fun. I like them. I like being able to show up on a job and get it done. It's very satisfying to have the right piece of equipment for a job like that. So previous this week we talked about small spaces, and then yesterday we had touch points on medium spaces, but today is my most exciting day for equipment because the bigger the better. I'm kind of like Tim Allen. Big machines, we're going to run an 8,000 propane, kind of our demolition model. We're going to take up some ceramic tile, some carpet, some VCT, might even try to scrape up some of this really thick epoxy paint that's poured out on the floor here. So let's get started.
So before we start, let's talk
about.
Let's
get started.
Okay, we'll get started. While we're starting, let's talk about some of the challenges of working in these large projects. And again, we're talking parking decks, manufacturing spaces, sports courts, that sort of stuff. So some of the challenges that you're going to run into and you want to be aware of, first and foremost, is power, your power requirements. Okay. Dave, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So when you get into larger machines, that typically means you're going to have larger power requirements, which means larger generation, 50 kW tow behind, 75 kW tow behind, large generation. I know some guys that run some of National's A30 shop blasters. They have 100 kW giant generators, and they're running all kinds of equipment and dust collection. If it's inside, I always recommend guys make pigtails in advance. Make sure they have the right kind of power and have an electrician wired in for them, so when they show up to the job, all they have to do is plug their cord into that pigtail, and they're ready to start the job instead of showing up hoping that somebody's going to unlock a box.
Right.
Or they might tell you, oh, you can't wire into that box. Those boxes run our computer backup systems and our security systems and the fire suppression systems in the building.
So I just to dovetail on that, I would highly recommend, if you're doing this type of work, you probably have done these projects before, you know what you need to do ahead of time, but I would never ever assume that you'll be able to run these machines on the power that's there. I would say make sure you do a walkthrough, talk to the maintenance guys, if there's an electrician there, talk to him with your power requirements, and if you're not quite sure, what it's going to take to run these things, call us. Look it up on the interwebs. Do whatever you can just before you get on site, because I've gotten calls before where guys have shown up on the projects and they're like, well, we don't have any power here. And that's 2 days if you get an electrician on an emergency call, that's several hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to get that all put in place before you can start. So I would say first and foremost is do a walkthrough, make sure you have the power. If you don't, call one of our partners who rent our machines. They also rent generators of all sizes. They can hook you up, and if you don't know where where to call us, we can probably put you in the right direction. So, yeah, power first and foremost, I would say.
Power is something that we get a lot of touch points with end users. They don't show up with enough cord, a heavy enough gauge cord. They don't have the right plugs, the right amp plugs for their equipment, and it slows the job down. So
And again, if you don't know those, don't guess on this stuff. If you've got, if your power is 300 feet away, call us. We'll figure out. We'll work with you and figure out what gauge of wire you need to run for certain runs of extension cords. We're the industry experts. We don't expect you to be. And if we don't know the answers, we have enough people that can pull that stuff up readily, pretty quickly.
So Matt is definitely 1 in a million, but I tell him all the time, don't get too cocky. That means in New York City, there's 12 guys exactly like him. So.
Okay. It's a big city. We're spread pretty thin.
Million, babe. All right, so we've talked a little bit about managing the job site expectations and power requirements and cord. Make sure you have enough shot, have enough diamonds, have enough blades for your scrapers.
Yes.
Being prepared with the right amount of consumables is another little touch point on that. Having enough and large enough dumpsters and accessible and a way to move the material from the building outside of the building. How many elevators will they let you use? Are they going to let you use an elevator? Will your machines fit in the elevator? There's lots of things that you want to make sure that you've got lined out and understand before you start the job. A lot of times you really should have that figured out before you bid the job. I used to watch guys run carpet, and they would literally run carpet from one end of the building to the other with a 12-inch self-scoring blade, and then I'd watch them struggle to get it out of the building. And then later I watched contractors that had learned how to tic-tac-toe the carpet. So they would make passes east and west, and then north and south, and then they would just take up the small strips, and the guys would walk, pick the small pieces of carpet up, the smaller strips, fold the glue in on each other, put it on a cart, and just keep doing that, following the guy on the rider. It was super efficient. It was super clean, and nobody was struggling with big old long strips of carpet. I was amazed by watching them, how they tackled the job. So if you guys have some bigger jobs and you want some more tips on how to be more efficient when you're tackling those, feel free to reach out to anybody at National. If you dial our digits, 763, or we have an 800 number. Is it on the screen too? Nick's going to provide the number so you guys can pick up the phone, and we are chock full of industry experts. Matt's just one good example. I've been around for 20 years, but when you reach out to National, there's a ton of people that can help you and get you the right answers, get you moving in the right direction. So,
and we want to help you.
Yeah.
If you rent or buy one of these machines, you can't use it. That's not good, obviously, for anyone. So we'll do whatever we can to help you get it up and running and be most efficient and profitable on your jobs.
I promise you, National, we actually still care about our customers. We still have customer service. My phone's on 24/7. If somebody calls me at 2 o'clock in the morning, which rarely happens, it's somebody that really needs help. You guys can have touch points with me with issues on the 4th of July, Thanksgiving, Christmas. It doesn't matter. I've been doing this long enough to understand that when everybody else goes home and everything shuts down, you guys go to work.
Yep.
And
nights, weekends, holidays.
Right.
We totally get it.
So there's great pride in the fact that we still believe and practice good customer service. So you guys use that to your advantage. All right, let's talk about the A97. You ready to move into the shot blasting?
Unless we have any questions, again, live chat them on. We'll answer them as they come in. There's a little bit of a lag, but and if you think of something that we've already passed over, we'll address things when we move between different machines. So absolutely, Dave.
We're going to talk a little bit about some of the features and the benefits of the machines, but we're also going to turn them on and run them. We're going to talk about how they are applicable to the larger jobs, so you understand why we're discussing a few of the models we have. We have some models that we can't show. There's certain limitations. We make a 30-inch shot blaster, which is amazing. Don't really have enough space here to run a 30-inch shot blaster. Last time I did a demo on it, which I think there's a link somewhere online to that, I was able to go about 10 feet, stop, turn around, go 10 feet, and then the demo was over because I'd blasted a giant area.
So let me just add to that. And if there's equipment that, the bigger equipment or the smaller equipment that we're not showing today, and I mean, you want more information, you want to see it in action, you want more information on how to use it, all of these trainings that we've done over the last year and a half, they're all up, archived on our YouTube channel, so you can find that stuff. And if you're looking for even more specific things of, how to run a grinder, how to uncrate a shot blaster, all that stuff is on our YouTube channel. It's a huge trove of great information, and I can't say enough about our marketing team for putting that stuff up there, making it available.
I agree with that. We have a pretty good marketing team at National. The A97, I actually love the way this machine is designed, and I'm humored by the number of calls I get where guys, they've bought it for the horsepower and the production, but they don't catch on to some of the value prop that's built into the machine prior to buying it. The first call I get is, Dave, I think they dropped my machine. It's leaning over. And I find that funny because that's probably what I would have thought as well. It's actually designed so the rebound plenum and the housing and the machine itself is leaned to one side. And the reason why it's designed that way is there's 2 bolts where I can remove a side magnet, and it comes with a little plate that looks like a boat. Is that close enough, Nick? Closer? It has a little stud on the back, and it slides right in to this slot in the machine. And what that does is that allows me to get super close to the wall. And because it's leaned over away from the wall, you guys know, like even in my background here, you can see the conduit electrical outlets,
switches, boxes.
This allows me to run down the wall, and in some cases, it eliminates edging completely. I don't know, raise of hands if anybody likes getting on their hands and knees with a 4.5-inch grinder or a 7-inch grinder with a shroud and a vacuum and edging a giant warehouse. I'll pass. I hate it. So this machine actually really helps. Some local guys bought one of these here, and I went and kind of did a little setup and was kind of watching them and seeing how they were doing with it. And they were edging with it, and it looked like apartments, but it was a senior retired living. So there was a lot of smaller spaces, individual rooms. And the machine's still small enough in footprint that they could get a majority of the walls. And it cut down, according to them, about 70% of the edging. They still had some corners to do because you can't edge, you can't get real close to a corner with a shot blaster typically. But they believed that their machine was going to pay for itself just in the labor savings from the amount of edging they didn't have to do. They were super excited. I was excited for them. It's a really great feature.
And the clearance from the wall is what, about 3/4 of an inch?
Maybe,
right around
depending on your operator.
Yeah.
You're 1/2 inch from the wall most of the time.
Which is pretty impressive with a machine this big. You can get that close.
So if you can cove base after that, a lot of times you can get away with little or no edging. And if you did add to do edging, it's such a small area, you just tilt your grinder, run down the wall just as fast as you can go. You don't have, a huge space to do. So this machine is also a first in the industry for ergonomics. Most of the machines on the market, they have a handle that when you move with it, you have to do this, which means you're walking sideways. So it's bad enough as a person to have to walk backwards all day that you're not used to, but every time you go to turn the machine, you end up walking sideways, which really slows you down and it's inefficient. This one actually has a handle that turns, so I can walk in a straight line as the handle turns. So the handle will turn with me, so I don't have to sidestep. I'm not a country music dancer, can't square dance. This is a really, really great feature. It also keeps me away from the wall in the machine. Instead of being way over here where the wall's at, if I'm making a tight corner, I'm it's safer because I'm on the safe side of the machine. Something you don't think about until you almost squish yourself between the wall and a shot blaster or a pole. I've never done that a million times in my career because you're walking backwards for one thing. So unlike my mother, I do not have eyes in the back of my head. Let's turn this on. I'm gonna make one pass because I'm somewhat limited with available open concrete. Show you guys how this works. We're gonna turn on the vacuum. We're gonna make a quick pass. And if you guys aren't familiar with shot blasting, this is just a quick demo. If you think that you're in the market or you have a need to utilize a blaster on a bigger job, what I can do is set up an individual training. Either there's teams and all kinds of different ways my marketing department helps me make these touch points with you guys. I'll go over operation, maintenance, setting the control cage, how much shot to put in it, what size shot, how the shot size affects your profile, how your speed affects the profile, what the shot blaster will and won't do, because there are limitations to every piece of equipment. So to get into that real finite training, if this is something that you see a value in, let's circle back together and do more meaningful, more in-depth training at a later date. That's always available. So on the handle, you have a trigger that makes it go. Then you have an overdrive, so if you're going, I can speed it up, which bypasses my speed control. It has a reverse, or I can hit the speed control and I can hit the overdrive and the reverse at the same time and go backwards with a shot blaster that's backwards at full speed. So the slower I go, the better my profile, or the deeper my profile, or the higher my CSP. So you can adjust what you're doing to the surface by controlling the speed. I'm going to make some noise. Matt's going to turn on my dust collector because he's my main man.
Uh-oh.
And I'm going to start the blast wheel, let it
Nope,
get
hold
up
on.
to speed. It's soft start, so it won't trip breakers. This is a 230 volt, 3-phase machine. And then we're going to open up the shot valve once we're moving. Oh, do we have our power off? Oh, smart. All right, here we go. Soft starting. Now it's running. I'm going to make sure the machine's moving. And once the machine's moving, I'm going to open the shot valve. I get super excited about shot blasters because nothing, in my opinion, preps wide open concrete faster and more efficiently than shot blasting. It actually cleans and profiles in one step. We're going to grind next. You guys, when you grind the floor, you'd have to have a vacuum as big as a 18-wheeler that had enough lift, and still you're not really going to pull the dust that's impacted and forced onto the surface. So you have to take a floor tool and a wand and a vacuum and sweep the floor to try to get all the dust off of it. A lot of contractors go one more step above and beyond because they are concerned about failure. They'll actually auto scrub the floor, which adds another step, more labor, more time, and you really need to wait for the floor to dry before you're going to put down your next material, whether it's an epoxy or whether it's carpet glue. No, it doesn't matter what it is. You really need that moisture to escape from the concrete before you can go down with your next material.
So Dave, let's talk about applications where you would use this versus a handful of grinders. What type of applications and why would you use it?
So I would use the shot blaster every chance I got in a job that would allow it, because shot blasting, like I said, it's the fastest, most efficient way to profile a surface. So the next question I get is, oh, okay, Dave, so I should buy a shop blaster. Easy. Just because I love shop blasting and I would use it every time that I could, there's limitations to shop blasters. Shop blasters cannot take up thick, soft membranes or glue. And if the epoxy is really thick and hard, the shot's basically going to bounce off of it. If it's super thick, even with the big, powerful machines, they have their limitations. So shop blasters will not flatten the floor at all. If the floor has lots of undulations, it's just going to travel over that. Shot's stupid. It's just going to hit the profile, make it profile, rebound back up. I do like that shop blasting uses steel shot as its main consumable, which is typically a lot cheaper per square foot, even with your blast wheel and your liners as wear parts, compared to diamond grinding. Diamonds cost a lot more money as a consumable compared to shop blasting.
So on some projects, you may have to use multiple machines because just one machine's not going to do it. You may have to grind first to get off any goop and stuff and glues or even scrape, and then come back and shot blast afterwards. There's no one tool. It's I go back to your story about the mechanic with one tool in his toolbox. He's a terrible mechanic.
Yeah, if you pulled up in your car and your mechanic held up his 9/16 wrench and said, "All right, I'm going to fix your car," and you said, "Well, where's the rest of your tools?" and he's like, "Well, I have a wrench," you'd probably back out real slow and take your car somewhere else while you're texting your buddy going, "Whoa, don't go here."
So where we're seeing these used a lot, and I've seen a large increase in these bigger machines in the past few years because of moisture mitigation issues. In a lot of it, most of it's been in the healthcare industry and in manufacturing. Back in the day, they didn't check the moisture content of the concrete before they put their coatings on top, and now they're having problems with water intrusion coming up through the concrete. So what they're doing now is they're having to go back to a lot of these spaces, and they're big. I mean, we're talking very large spaces. This is not mom's garage. This is, like I said, hospitals, food manufacturing, pharmaceutical, where they're actually having to come back through, remove what's there, prep the floor with the shot blasters, and then they'll put the water water barrier on top of that. So that's what I've seen a lot in the last couple of years. Dave, have you seen any other applications?
I've seen guys move toward grinders in instances where they want a little more versatility out of one tool, where a grinder can grind a floor, flatten a floor, where there's curled joints. They can smooth that out and take the high spots down. With grinders, you can put PCDs on these larger grinders, rip up those real thick epoxies that I said that in some cases a shot blaster won't take off, old patching. So you can do a little bit more, and obviously I can polish, believe it or not. I can polish with this machine. This is kind of a rotational machine that we're going to run next. I can polish with this just as good as any machine on the market, but faster. Usually because the first two cuts, your money cut and your original cuts that you're trying to open the floor up and remove sealers and curing compounds, it has so much weight and it's so fast that you're going to be able to just rip through the floor and at an alarming rate. And then you can polish pretty quickly too, obviously, on your steps, depending on what step you're going to.
Can we talk a bit about the grinders versus the shot blasters?
So typically you've got a couple of guys for your shot blaster. You've got a guy that's moving your hose and your dust collector around for you, maybe running the sweeper magnet occasionally to pick up any loose shot blasting material that gets left behind. It's typically a 2, maybe 3-man crew. Usually it's a 2-man crew. With a grinding operation, you've got a guy moving the dust collector, a guy grinding, and then you've got several other vacuums, usually smaller 110 volt vacs with wands and floor tools and hoses, and they're vacuuming the surface as the grinding progresses through the building. So you've got more labor, more equipment, it's more time consuming, and it's slower than
generally I've seen one shot blaster and it same size project, close, very similar applications with multiple grinders. So right there you've doubled your labor, tripled, even quadrupled your labor costs on that project.
And I've been up in Massachusetts just pretty recently and watched a guy with a 30-inch machine, just not even trying, brand new machine, never shot blasted before, and they're just getting their feet wet. And he was easily knocking out 3,000 square feet an hour. And he didn't really know how to make the machine operate the best for him. When I got there, he was moving his blaster toward the dust collection, so his hoses and cords kept getting in the way, and I taught him to start with any tool, start next to your dust collection and move away. That way your hoses and cords are always trailing.
That's a great tip.
But there's machines out there that we can hook you guys up with that aren't necessarily in our video today, that we can provide massive production rates. The 97 is still going to get it done, but it's popular for large spaces because this is a great example. This building's pretty big, but we have all this wide open area, but I also have hallways and offices and lounges, and this machine's still small enough where I can maneuver it in and out of all those spaces and prep a majority of it, as well as these large spaces out here. So if you guys, don't forget, if you got questions, chat them up. We like answering questions. And I'm
right.
shocked. I'm shocked that you're not giving away your Maserati, but
Well,
all right. So we're going to switch to the GP3000, and the first thing I'm going to do is, because we were moving this around. Do we want to flip it up and show them the bottom before we move the weights? So right now the weights are on the handle, which you don't want to leave them on the handle when you're grinding. So this is how you move it around. It's got a wheel on the back.
oh, we lost a piece of tooling.
What's that? Oh, I lost a diamond when it'll happen.
Yep.
Perfect. So this is actually a counter-rotational grinder, and what happens is they actually turn inside of each other. These two turn the same, these two turn the same. That's only important if you're using directional tooling like PCDs, where you're trying to remove thick, heavy material off the floor. Grinding, you can actually change the direction in the box. We make a little bit smaller version of this called GP700, and then another grinder that's real popular, it's counter-rotational at National, is a GP500. But since we're talking about large spaces today, we're going to try to focus on this grinder. This is, it's big and heavy, but as soon as I turn it on, I'm just floating across the floor. It's very little work. It's a lot less work than you would suspect.
Show the tooling.
Yeah, sure.
So this takes different types of tooling right now. We've got the double zeros. It will take the directional tooling. It will take the pucks, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. And with the adapter, it would also take the resin pads. So basically everything from, and I don't have a PCD handy, but it will also take the PCDs, which are directional, somewhat similar to these. So you can basically start with any surface and polish it all the way up.
See if we can get a little dust collection going. All right. So Matt's gonna fire up our dust collection. I got my safety breakaway hooked up.
Watch out.
Winding it down. So if you guys have materials that you don't want to blast, or you want to invest in a grinder, this GP3000, it's king of the grinders. For production, I've got some guys in mid-America. They've got 4 of these, and they run them every single day nonstop. They grind and prep with them on certain jobs as GCs, and they actually use these for polishing very large jobs in other parts of town. So they're constantly using these for grinding and polishing, and they love them. I love them. I've been selling this style grinder for 20 years. The technology for the control boxes have gotten better. They used to just have basically big on-off switches, where now it's got soft start. I can control my speed. I can turn it up or down while it's running. If I shut it off, I can change my direction, which helps with your diamond wear. And obviously, if you're going to put on directional tooling, you want to make sure that your PCDs are cutting into the material you're trying to take off versus sliding over the top of it. So
and there is, I know there's always a little, unless you've been doing this forever, there's always a little bit of confusion with, what diamonds, why would I use these over these? We have a lot. If you look in our catalog and online, there's 3 different choices. Unless you're really familiar with it, call us. We'll walk you through. We'll go over what part of the world you're in, what the substrate's going to be like, and we'll try to get you into the right set of diamonds for whatever you're trying to accomplish.
And this machine is actually capable of wet or dry grinding. Has a water tank, so you can, if you get into a no dust situation, which I believe it or not, automotive is a real big no dust, because BMW and Greer, South Carolina does not want dust behind the window of the speedometer. A lot of food processing plants.
Absolutely. Pharmaceuticals,
zero dust. So you actually could run this wet or dry.
Electronics manufacturing.
Yep. So that's another benefit I like. And currently, this water box is a toolbox. There's lots of tools and diamonds in here. So it's a great transport place to keep your tools when you don't have water in it.
And also in hospitality, a lot of guys ask if they can use this to do terrazzo. Casinos, hotels, shopping malls, anywhere. I believe it's kind of east of the Mississippi where there's a lot of terrazzo. This is a great machine for terrazzo too.
Yep. Does anybody have any questions about the GP3000 or the A97 that we've gone over yet? Anybody typed in any questions?
We haven't had anybody. Did you touch on the tooling, your tooling selection on there?
So right now, we're live from Denver, Colorado, and I'm not sure how this happened. Luck. The PSI of this concrete's about 7,000. It's probably some of the hardest concrete I've ever seen. It's not real flat. Every square is a kind of a serial bowl, but the concrete itself, as far as the hardness, is hard. I struggled to get it to open up when it was brand new, even with super soft diamonds. But a lot of this has been prepped some. It's been opened up, although we still didn't make very much dust, and we still didn't make as much progress as you would at a normal job. So I have part number 501 000s, which is super aggressive diamond for prepping and opening up a surface. And I hardly leave any swirl marks because the concrete's so hard. But it is, when you run these machines, typically you're going to run them back and forth, just real slow as you're moving forward. Then you come back on that same pass, overlap, 25%. Choosing the right diamond tooling is a whole lecture in itself. So if you don't have grinders, or even if you have grinders and you want to talk about it, reach out to us and we'll talk to you about which kind of machine you have, what kind of tooling is available, how they work best in each application. We'll talk about hard, soft, medium concrete, hard, medium, and soft, diamond matrix, how to put those together, the different PCDs and the different directional diamonds if you want, the difference between our 10-segment diamonds and our 2-segment diamonds. Obviously, the 2-segment diamonds are way more aggressive than a diamond that has 10 pie-shaped pieces on it, or 8. But if you're going really fast with a 2-segment, is it leaving too aggressive of a swirl for the amount of epoxy you put down? And I'll have guys tell me, well, I'm putting down 20 mils of epoxy. Well, what percentage of solids? I don't know. Well, if it's 50% solids, epoxy, and you mix it up, dump it on the floor, when it's dried up, you actually only have 10 mils. I don't know if that math is good. I'd count to 20 if I take my shoes off, just saying. But it's touch points that guys don't think about, or they need someone to kind of teach them. How do you figure out the hardness of the concrete? We sell Mohs hardness testers. And there's some other tests out there, some basic industry tests, scratch tests, the dime test with a drop of water. You touch it onto the surface. After 10 seconds, if it's soaked in as big as a dime, you're good to go. Rule of thumb is you've opened it enough, the water has soaked into the slab, so whatever else you're putting on there is going to do the same thing. They're kind of basic tests, but they're good rule of thumb tests to see if you've ground enough. Once you get experience like me, I could tell that this concrete is opened up, but we've probably blasted and ground this square more times than I could count. So,
and we know that if you're doing projects of the magnitude that we're talking about today, you've more than likely been in the business a long time. However, nobody knows everything. Dave doesn't know everything. I don't know everything. So don't be afraid if you're in some application with one of these machines, either the grinder or the shot blaster. If there's a hiccup, call us. Seriously, just give us a call. Again, we've got a great team. We've got a lot of knowledge. And when it comes to stuff like this, there's no stupid questions, because one small mistake can really muck up all the work. So be safe and sorry. Give us a call. We'll do what we can to help you out.
I've learned everything that I know from you guys, for the contractors. When I started, I actually didn't have a cell phone. I think I had a pager. I don't think cell phones. My dad might have had a car phone in his car, which was absolutely ridiculous.
Car phone in his dinosaur.
That he carried in a bag and then put in his car. But I didn't have anybody to call. I couldn't watch YouTube videos. I didn't know who to reach out to, so I would go out and go, yeah, we can shot blast glue. Oh, well, no, guess you can't. Try it again somewhere, it didn't work. I ran back and forth trading out equipment, trying to figure out what would work on these jobs. And then I also spent a lot of time, my whole life I spent on these job sites with you guys and watched the things that you do. And I've learned from that, and I like to pass that on, because if it helps the next guy with a better solution to a problem he's been having, that's really a satisfying part about my job. I'm not in sales. I'm the Global Director of Training, which is a fancy title that my boss gave me that really means I'm the guy that gets dirty every day, and I'm happy with that. I live for this. I'm here to help you guys. National's here to help you guys, so feel free to reach out.
Yeah, and too, if you missed something today, you just tuned in, or you wanted to see some of the other machinery, some of the smaller machines that we did yesterday, all this stuff will be up on our YouTube channel here very shortly. So, and if you have questions after the fact, our 800 numbers on there, our emails on there. Reach out. Any questions at all, just let us know. And today, alive, I mean, we're here. We can answer your questions within a couple seconds, so don't hesitate.
So the next thing we're going to do is right before we fire up our 8,000 ride-on machine, we're gonna actually demo it on some carpet. We're gonna demo it on some ceramic tile, some VCT, and some 3/4 inch solid oak wood floor. But normally, even with an 8,000, you can't take up the whole gym floor at once. So historically, guys have taken a skill saw or a circular saw. Is it called a skill saw, circular saw? I don't know.
Yeah.
And they get on their hands and knees and they
Kleenex or tissue, it's all the same.
score the wood. Well, that puts tons of dust into the air and it's super slow. So National took actually an existing tool that is called a scarifier, and we have incorporated and built specifically a drum for this. And I got an idea from, we actually have some VIP live audience here. I got a great suggestion to even improve more on some different tooling to put on this yesterday, which is my whole point. I learn something from you guys every day. It's amazing. And I really actually appreciate that because we can pass that along. Matt, you want to show us the drum that's on here? It's still got the, do we need to trade it? Okay, just want to make sure. Matt's got an extra one to show you guys what it looks like. Thanks, Matt. You're my HERO.
So this is the wood scoring drum. 6-inch carbide tipped wood blades that you can either add or take away with these things. It is not your standard saw blade. I believe it's a 6-inch with a hex arbor. So if you need blades, you can't run to Home Depot and find these. So just call us.
I actually have a contractor in California that all he does is score wood floors for other contractors, and he buys stacks of blades, and he has somebody laser cut them, the arbors for him, because that's all he does all day long is cut wood floors all over the state. It's amazing. That's how he found a niche. And instead of selling, instead of all that labor, he shows up with 3 or 4 of these machines and a bunch of vacuums, sets up, knocks out and cuts it, and then leaves, and somebody else comes in with their ride-on machines and takes the floor up.
So here's the individual saw blade with the type of arbor. So back in the day, generally Dave was talking about you basically would have to get your skill saw or your circular saw, set it, and be on your knees. I mean, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I don't know about you, Dave, but I'm too old for that.
Definitely.
Knees are shot.
I'm not lazy. You get to a point, I'm about 50, where if I could stand behind this machine all day, I don't know if anybody that's watching this in the future or today, if you guys have ever done that or watched somebody do it, and then you watch us do this. This is a pretty old beat-up machine. It's been around for a really long time. Still works great, but we're going to go ahead and score a little bit of this.
So why are we scoring this, Dave?
So the reason why I'm scoring this is even with a ride-on, a demolition size machine that National makes, like an 8,000 that you're going to see here in a few minutes with a 27 horsepower motor that's just, I can knock down walls with it. 3/4 inch wood floor is tongue and groove on both sides and on each end. So a couple of things happen. Your machine wants to stall out because you're trying to lift the entire floor up at once. And if I can get enough run at it to get it to come up, and I don't score it, it tends to break and splinter, and it makes a much bigger mess. If I score it, usually I can go full speed with the machine, and it wood piles up in front of me. It just goes chick, 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 chick. So cleanup's a lot easier, and it's a lot more efficient. And a lot of times you just won't get it up unless you score it, because even with my big, huge Viking that's in the background, You can't lift an entire gym floor up. And if you did, it's still going to be stuck together, and it's going to be awfully hard to get the entire gym floor out the door. I've made that mistake with carpet young in my career. Oh, can I tell a story on myself? I showed up with a ride-on machine, and I put a big old blade on it. I think it was a big Holiday Inn with the inside doors that go way up with the waterfalls. The kids always put the bubbles in into the soccer tournaments. And I pushed a giant roll of carpet up into the corner that was about almost as tall as me. And the GC said, "You, Dave, are an idiot." And I went, "Ta-da, look, Ma, no hands, what do you mean?" And he said, "How do you expect me to get that roll of carpet out of the building?" And I went, "Oh, it's probably heavy, huh?" He's like, "I dislike you very much. Please don't ever come back to my job." Everybody learns as they go in life. I had the opportunity to learn everything the hard way. So the wood floor falls kind of under that story. Really, you don't want to take up this giant section of floor because it won't fit in the dumpster. It's way too heavy to lift out of here. And as far as efficiency and being able to get it up off the floor quickly, you can score it so quickly with this method that it definitely pays for itself and makes you actually more efficient. Matt, anything to add?
No.
All right, we're going to fire up the vac and fire up the Scarifier right quick. Softly. I'm going to move this out of the way. So I didn't put any dust in the air. There's a little left on the ground, but we didn't fill the place up with dust. I would have taken considerably longer to do that with a hand tool. So it's an amazing piece of equipment, and it's a low-cost piece of equipment. It's 110 volt. It's lightweight, and if you guys don't have one and you're doing this type of work, should jump on that right away. All right, so I'm going to go drive the 8000 over into the scene, but Matt has set up one of the things that I like to teach because I found out that lots of guys didn't understand this in the past. So let's bring out the rest of my boards. You guys got me on camera? Perfect. So National makes quite a few different wood shanks for taking up engineered hardwood flooring, bamboo, 3/4 inch hardwoods, and nobody seems to understand why we make different length blades. Oh. Hey. Our marketing's way up in the air, shooting down, and I'm not used to that. So let's real quick review what they're for and how to choose your wood floor shank. So this is a short shank. So the distance from the tip to where it starts to actually have the lifting action is not very far. So when I go to take up a piece of small wood like this, it's going to get underneath it, start under the next one, and then start lifting it. If I use this short shank for this sheet of engineered pretend wood floor. Probably going to get in trouble for saying that. I'm not going to be very far underneath it before it starts to lift it, which means this shatters and makes a gigantic mess. If I'm going to, the wider the board, the longer you want your shank. So I want to be all the way underneath this before it starts lifting. Does that make sense? And with the short board, I don't want to be under 4 pieces before I start lifting
Because
it.
you're trying to lift up multiple at the same time.
Because it's stuck or nailed so hard, usually glued. So you want to use a short shank for narrow pieces of wood, and for larger pieces of wood, you want the longer shank. So I'm underneath it and started on my other one before it starts to lift. What really happens is it will wood pile up in front of you rather than just splintering in. If you use the wrong shank, you're just taking it up 2 or 4 inches at a time. Really, you want to try to lift boards up like we did with this one. This one was stuck somewhere here at one point, and I just saved it. So I was able to lift up this whole sheet. If I had used the short shank, it would have just shattered this into a million pieces, and it would have just cut a strip probably through it. That's not a very efficient way to remove a wood floor. Short shank, short pieces of wood, wider wood, longer shanks. All right. Thanks, Matt. You want? Yeah, I'll bring it over. I'm going to go pull the 8,000 up. I can't drive 55. Do you want to drive? Thanks, Matt. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is destroy some really expensive, probably would have been beautiful if it wasn't in this warehouse, because we drive forklifts and we park cars and trailers in here. We're going to rip up some of this 3/4 inch solid oak wood flooring. And what you guys are going to see is I'm going to put the shank flat by using the slide plate. One of the greatest, by far, the best advantage to Nationals ride-on machines versus anything else you've ever seen is I can put a shank flat on the floor and slide underneath the material, lift it up, rather than hit the edge of it, which is very hard to remove ceramic tile, marble, and wood flooring. And I will bring the back end up just a little bit, the back end of the shoe, because concrete's not flat, especially the concrete in this building. So that keeps the tip in contact with the surface, but I'm not going to stand it up. Standing it up is not the right way to do it. You want it flat with the back end up, maybe 3/16 of an inch.
And we always, before you start, we always get
yeah.
like, oh, you guys, you didn't really put this stuff down. It's not down that well. If you can see on the edges,
It's down.
It's like someone came in with peanut butter and just slathered it on. So this stuff is definitely put down very well.
Cheating is not something we do.
No.
Our VCT and our carpet's so nasty when it comes up. That's why it's all over my pants and my shoes. It's stuck, I promise. If guys haven't seen this before, they're like, oh, they're definitely cheating.
Not cheating.
Not cheating.
No.
It's design of the machine, the shank, the slide plate, the horsepower, the weight. And with me on the machine, there's at least 225 pounds of extra weight. That was awesome. I'd like to do that all day long. And like Matt was saying, if you guys can see the back of that, the glue I think is almost as thick as the board.
And how long has that been down?
It's been down for probably a couple months.
Yeah. So it's had a chance to set up. This is
Yeah.
it's legit.
And we just plowed it up. Did you guys see now clean up? My pieces are pretty small and they're easy to put in a cart this way. Hey-o. So cleanup's quicker, faster, more efficient because we scored it. And having the right machine certainly is beneficial.
We did have a question come up about purchasing equipment, and because of the manufacturer, how do you go about
That's a Matt question.
purchasing equipment?
So I would say there's a couple ways to go about it. First of all, we have our 800 number. You can call us if you like doing it old school. We have a team in the Minneapolis facility pretty much during business hours. Or you can go online to our website and send in a request for quote, and we can get you directed depending on your geographic location. Support you the best we can.
Can we help people with finance?
We can definitely help with finance. We don't finance ourselves, but we work with some great partners that I have heard nothing but good things as far as financing. And we're getting to the end of the year, and so now it's about time to start thinking about spending all that extra money you don't have with the Section 129. 179.
I was close. All right, so we're actually going to switch and put a. Do you want to take up some ceramic tile or?
It's up to you.
Yeah, we put on. Let's.
Do we do the
We've
ceramic,
got-
or we can do the carpet or the VCT, whatever?
Since he's pointed here, let's do carpet,
Okay.
and then we'll switch to ceramic tile. How's that?
Self-scoring.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fire it up.
So you want to talk about some of the safety features of this machine while I'm monkeying around down here, Dave?
Sure, it has a seat safety switch, so if the operator gets off the machine, it's going to turn itself off. And obviously, for safety reason, I'm never going to run a machine while Matt's down there changing tooling because it is a hydraulic machine, and we don't want to pinch anybody's fingers, crush anybody's hands. And I tell guys all the time that you should always have a safety guy. Matt's my safety guy. We have live audience participation here. The marketing department's here. It's Matt's job, if I'm on the machine, to make sure nobody walks behind me and gets run over. I can't really see behind me. It's limited sight, and you're backing up, and you're really concentrating on your work. So when Matt's on the machine, my job is to make sure nobody gets close to him.
It's just to having a spotter, like you're in the gym,
Yep.
like you're lifting weights. You got to have spotters, someone there to just, and most job sites I've been on now, there's at least one safety guy, if not a couple. So
Yep.
Just be very aware. This thing, it moves quickly. It turns very quick. It's almost like a ZTR, so zero turn radius. So it does swing around. So definitely be aware and have someone around that can help direct folks around it.
This one? Ready?
So you noticed how Dave, after he got the carpet up, how he switched the angle of the blade to take the glue up. So a big advantage of this machine and a couple of our other machines is having the dual lift.
Yeah, let me see that glue. Definitely glued down, you guys. We're going to throw it at the marketing department. Just kidding. We like our jobs here.
So the dual lift actually allows you to adjust the height of the tooling holder up and down. So you can actually, without getting off, without stopping, the operator can actually adjust the angle at which the tooling is hitting. And right there was a prime example, because with manual lift machines, the operator would have to stop after he pulled up the carpet, get off, find a wrench, loosen the slide plate, bring it up,
Excuse me.
put another blade in, tighten it back up, and
Gosh, sorry.
it might not seem like it takes too long, but on a large project, if you have to do that again and again, that's time is money. So that's a great example, Dave.
Let's take up some ceramic tile real quick. I'm going to pull over there, and I'm going to come this way. Is that all right? Will you move that cord, please? Thanks, bro. I don't want to run over it. I think it's still hot. Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
I will buy you lunch. I think marketing already bought us lunch, so I'm good.
There you go.
Thank you, sir. So we have a 2-inch carbide shank. I talk a lot about the performance and efficiency of ride-on machines. If you want to keep up that efficiency on jobs, you have to be prepared to sharpen your blades and your carbide shanks. If you're going to sharpen your carbide shanks, you need a carbide silica green wheel. So I'm being redundant. On the East Coast, the guys call them green wheels because when you buy them, the wheels designed to sharpen carbide are green. On the West Coast, predominantly, I hear guys say, I need a carbide silica wheel. So somewhere in the middle, when you get to Kansas City, somebody's going to only understand one or the other of that. So I just have grouped it together in my vocabulary and my slang. You need a carbide silica green wheel. So if I roll up to the counter at Granger and go, I need a carbide silica green wheel for my bench grinder. Here's the black one I took off it. This is the arbor size. This is the thickness. He's going to go, oh, you need a carbide silica, or he's going to go, oh, you need a green wheel. He's going to know what I'm talking about, jam it out on his computer, and obviously the world's changed. I'm pretty sure you could go online and they'll deliver it right to you. You don't have to go anywhere anymore. I'm pretty sure that in the next 5 minutes, nobody's ever going to leave their house again because of Amazon. You can get bananas and hammers and carbide silica wheels right at your doorstep. So make sure you're prepared, whether you're going to use a bench grinder to sharpen or whether you're going to use a 4.5-inch grinder from Harbor Freight or wherever, or if you want a high-quality tool. Make sure you've got that. And always, Matt, you want to talk about having more than one shank? Your discussion yesterday was spot on.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this yesterday. So when you're on a large job, you're going to want to make sure you have multiple pieces of tooling, be it the carpet blades, the flat blades, the carbide tip shanks, just because they get dull. And they will wear down over time, and they are, like Dave said, you can't sharpen them, but if you think ahead on the project, bring a couple extra shanks, bring a grinder, and when the thing gets dull, stop the machine, have your guy come over, your helper come over, swap them out for you, put the new one in, you giddy up and go, and he's over sharpening it. So, and there's also, so that's a 2-inch shank in there. And we also have come up with a 2-inch shank with replaceable tips, which is really kind of nice. We'll cover it later. Okay.
So you want me to go ahead and make a mess?
Make a mess, Dave. So Dave, I know that we make 2-inch and 6-inch carbide shanks. Why are you using that 2-inch on this?
So this tile's actually, I know you don't believe me, but the tile's, you can see it's stuck to the ground. So the more your material is adhered to the ground, the smaller the shank you want to use. If this was just laying here with gravity, Matt, I'd probably use a 6-inch shank. And you guys actually will see that. I spent a lot of time in New Orleans after the big hurricane and all the floods, and the grocery stores and the malls and all the shopping spaces, all the floors have been underwater actually didn't just flood and go away. It was underwater for quite a while. And there was still a lot of cleanup, but a lot of the material wasn't bonded anymore because the water had affected that bond. So I actually got a chance to use 27-inch blades, where historically a 27-inch blade isn't going to stay in contact with the surface. What happens when you get a giant mess like this? You've got a bunch of guys with shovels trying to push it into a pile, or trying to take flat shovels and put it in wheelbarrows, or however you're going to remove it out. I think that the tile box, where do you want it? Where do you want us? So you can see us. Right here? Or do you want me to put it on the machine? I can put it on the machine. This is called a tile box. If you buy a 27-inch swivel head and a tile box, and this is just a small area. If I had done this big, huge area, in order to facilitate cleanup, this basically is going to turn my machine, any rider, into a bulldozer. So I can push this all into one pile to make it a lot easier to clean up, and it's made out of pretty heavy gauge material. So it's like a giant blade. So I'm going to show you guys how awesome this thing works. I love them. I don't know why everybody, if you have a rider, you should have a tile box. This works for VCT, wood floor, whatever bulk material you've got on the floor. This gives you an opportunity to push it into one big pile, and then it's a lot quicker to take your shovel and get it out. So this is how this works. Go down one.
And I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it's actually taking up some of the thin set that's left over as he's doing this. So he's almost doing a rescrape with the tile box. Generally, you'd probably do it after everything was done, but there you go.
So that's a really small space. If I had this giant area where I was working, that tile box just made shoveling this up way faster. And guess what? I have to clean this up. I would not live without that tile box, because when the camera goes off, I have help here, which is fantastic, but I still have to clean this mess up. Has to be cleaned up. We can't just leave it like this. So having this tile box is great, because now I have just one pile I can shovel into my plastic wheelbarrow and take it outside and dump it.
We have two things. One was just a comment. The best part about the 8000 is watching it remove the tiles without needing a head start.
Right.
I don't know if you want to talk to.
The reason why I didn't get a head start was there's actually a joint right here. The tile stops at this joint, and I certainly want to protect my tooling from, I said earlier, every single square in here is a cereal bowl, so all the joints are curled. So if I start back here and take a run, I'm likely going to chip away at the concrete, dull my blade, maybe break the concrete at that edge. So I just snuck right up to the very edge of the other side of the joint and then took off. That's a great example of how National's engineering and design outperforms everyone else, because everyone else is going to have to kind of hit the edge of that tile and shatters into millions of little pieces. It's not really efficient. You guys see that because of the way the shank's designed in the machine, we took up almost whole tiles, and it's still stuck to the ground, but this is a lot easier to clean up, and it also comes up a lot faster, because I still missed a little piece here and there. I try to hit it with my 2-inch shank. What was still stuck, my tile box, because it's thick enough material, broke those little pieces right off.
And then the other thing was, somebody's asking if we can cover waterproofing. I don't know if you have more you want to talk about on tile, but maybe waterproofing.
So waterproof coating, if you're talking about like rubber membranes.
Or any waterproofing.
Removing it or putting it down? Oh. Okay.
So we actually, the self-scoring blades are great for removing up waterproof membranes. The 8000 I've had on bridge decks all over Europe and in Minneapolis. We also make a machine which we're going to focus on tomorrow. If you'd like the link to it, Nick can make sure that you get it. We're going to run the Viking that's in the background, which is specifically designed for bridge and highway work, which is typically waterproofing membranes. On the smaller scale, the 8000 is fantastic for outdoor work like that.
Yeah,
I've actually seen them
membranes, sports tracks, any large rubberized coatings, and there's a couple different ways you can attack those. Sometimes it would be with a self-scoring blade. Sometimes you would need, depending on what the mixture is, and if it's an epoxy, if it's a softer epoxy, elastomeric, you might want to go to a 6-inch carbide shank. It kind of just.
Yep.
You just need to figure that out. But yeah, those that machine is phenomenal for those big projects like that.
We've got videos of me running the 8000 in Japan. They're super big on outdoor activities, so their outdoor sports flooring goes on forever. So they're replacing it and upgrading it on a regular basis. We've got tons of video of the 8000 on bridge decks, the Viking on bridge decks, and I personally have been where they've lifted the 8000 down into big water fountains like in Las Vegas and in some big cities like Philadelphia, where they had to remove that rubber membrane so they could redo it, prep it, and then put another coating down. So if you guys want some additional videos of that, will you chat in and let Nick know, and he can provide that. He can send you a link, or I don't know, me and technology, we're not really friends, but he is a smart young man, so he can get you what you need. I think that's it. We covered a lot of equipment today that addresses a big, what are you pointing at? Sorry. Well, we use a 1-inch blade. I can set up a shank and we can take it up, sure. Yeah, just give me 1 second. We took them apart for show and tell yesterday.
There was a follow-up question about the waterproof coating. Why use a self-scoring blade instead of a 1086 blade?
So typically waterproof membranes, and not always, they are monolithic.
So I mean, the advantage of the self-scoring blade on that would be, it depends on how it comes out. The self, like Dave said, it's monolithic, so it'll actually cut it, and it comes up in manageable pieces. Versus a flat blade, you may just have a whole sheet come up at once, and then you get it caught in your wheels and such like that. So it's just managing the job a little easier to make it more efficient. Any other questions? All righty.
Slide my 1-inch blade in here.
A brief intermission here.
So what we're going to do is we're going to use a 1-inch blade. It looks like a razor blade, but razor blades are designed for re-scraping up thick, sticky glue. And by the way, if you're going to do that, spread some Portland cement or some flour or something on the floor. to keep it from sticking to your wheels. And I usually spray my swivel head down with Pam, which is a cooking spray.
You heard that correct. That's actually a thing. I've actually seen it in the field. Guys are like, I've got my tooling, my blades are all gummed up. I tell them to spray it with Pam or any sort of cooking spray.
Usually they'll spray their deflector plate and their tooling holder. Let me fire this up so we're going to put a 1-inch blade. And the 1-inch blade is absolutely amazing for taking up thin set and really thick epoxies. So I'll show you guys that. And the 1-inch blades come in, quote me offhand, 4-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch. There's a bunch of different sizes. So if it's a really tough removal, like I've taken up some, I think Nick has some video of it, some guys taking up some pretty thick epoxy that wasn't bonded very well because the prep wasn't done right. But they had grinders with PCDs, and it was taking forever. So I showed up with a battery-powered 5700 and a 1-inch blade, and just walked it off the floor as fast as it would go. And they were like, "You're kidding me." And the PCDs were actually damaging the pretty soft concrete that was underneath it. The 1-inch blade just slid over the top of the concrete. All right. Can we get a shot of the thin set over here? Excuse me. If you guys are concerned about dust when you're taking up thin set, and to make it come up easier, I always recommend getting a pump up sprayer and wetting the thin set down for about 30 minutes. Then when you go to scrape it, it doesn't make dust, and the water actually softens it up quite a bit and makes the removal really easy. It's one of my tricks that I use that actually really helps out a ton. All right.
Any questions?
We don't have any right now, but let's give it a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for logging in, you guys, today and watching us on video. And I'd like to thank the guys that came all the way from Florida and different locations across the country, and they're behind the camera where you can't see them. Thanks for taking the time and effort to come spend some time with National. And
if you're watching this in the future, past me is telling future you to, if you have questions, call us, email us. We've got contact information. If you have questions, more questions on the machines, if you have questions on applications, diamonds, tooling, basically anything, reach out to us. Email, the interwebs, phone, whatever. Just
Yeah, give us a call on the
Call
spider.
us.
Give us a call on the spider web. Happy Halloween.
send up the bat signal.
That's right.
Open demo at 1.
Yeah, open demo. So you guys can come back at 1 o'clock Mountain Time, and you can request any equipment that we have here.
Yes.
For demo, and you can ask more questions, and you can ask about specific applications. If you want to see a specific machine work on something, hopefully we can cover that here. So please rejoin us shortly.
We'll be here as long as you need us.
Yep.
Sounds good. Just do like a final thing.
Happy trails, safe trails.